Welcome to the Blind Zone, where curiosity brings its own reward. And today, I'm going to have to really try to keep from gushing because I have one of my favorite people, favorite people ever. It's my cousin Kathleen, but the title cousin doesn't even do her justice because we, man, we're just besties. So she has, she's helped me through more scrapes than I care to tell you. But again, I'm not going to gush. I'm just going to introduce her, and then we're going to talk about our topic, which is, well, I will say this first. She's super creative. She has a real good flair and an eye for things. So I wanted her to discuss Christmas and decorating because she has a really good view on that. So we're going to talk to her briefly about that. But so, okay, Kathleen, say hi, and then we'll get started.
Hello, and thank you for the introduction. Yes, as Denise said, she is my cousin. I have known her all my life, and we we have we've gotten into trouble. We've gotten out of trouble, and it's been a great ride. And she is my best friend. So when she asked me to talk about Christmas decorations, I got to thinking about why do I decorate for Christmas? What is the motive behind that? And it's really because it's fun. Um, we have lots of decorations, and we're fortunate because we have this storage space to keep it all. But it's a lot of it is memories. Some of it is gifts. Um, but it's so fun when people come to our house on the holidays and the decorations bring smiles. So it's all very positive, and that's what's really neat.
Well, and because I have to tell you something that I was reminded of, because in the past, and I'm sure you've heard me say this too, that Christmases in my youth were really hard and this, that, and the other. And I was sitting here a couple weeks ago thinking about decorating, and the Holy Spirit brought a scripture to mind, and it's when Jesus was talking in Luke 9, and he says, "No man puts his hand to the plow and is fit for the kingdom." And the Holy Spirit reminded me that those Christmases past, they're just that, they're in the past. And as long as I was continuing to drag them forward, I was missing what I had to gain and get from the experience going forward. So I vowed that this year would be different. So I got out my two trees, I plugged them in, and neither one worked. But I allowed my 3.5-year-old grandson to decorate my 3-foot tree, and it looks as great as you think a 3.5-year-old can decorate a tree, but it is fun. So I had to set aside what I thought about before. And but to your point, you have people coming over, and I don't have a lot of company that comes in, but just I don't know. That's why it was going to be really fun to talk with you about this because you do this well and you do have a plan, and I'm anxious to talk about that. So, thank you for that. And yes, I guess we have gotten in quite a bit of trouble, and you've gotten me out of quite a few things too. So, but your husband Tim also appeared on a previous video where he did the wood carving, which is another, fabulous blind zone, extravaganza. So let's get into this. Now, I know that I think I saw on Facebook that this is the 47th year of
That's
Tim's
right. Yeah.
handmade Christmas ornaments.
Yeah.
And do you have a whole separate tree for that, or what does that look like?
Okay, well, what we do with that, for many years, it was we put his ornaments on a separate tree. But last year we realized that there were too many ornaments to have both the tree you see behind me and this other smaller tree. So Tim's decorations have gone into a rotation of the larger tree. But I did want to share with you some of the ornaments that he has made. Um, I won't bore everybody to tears with lots of them, but what's significant is that he started these ornaments when he was in college, and he would buy a kit, and this was a diversion when he was studying and he just needed a break. So this is the first ornament that he made. This is 1977, and it's a wood cutout with paper cutout that has been painted with magic markers. So this, all these ornaments that I'm going to show you are the ones that he gave to me. So I'm fortunate to be in the group that gets them. He usually makes, yeah, well, he makes about 40 a year, and they go
Hmm.
for family and friends. So there's that one. And then there's his favorite, which is a spider made out of beads. And what was neat about this, when he told me that this was a favorite of his, is that there's a lovely story that goes with this, that the spiders made the tinsel on the tree with their webs. And so there's a lovely story that goes with it. But that's made out of pearl beads. And then last year, he had used many kits through the years, and then a lot of handmade ideas that we would find. And then in the last few years, he's gone on to doing the carving, where those are his because I don't go there. So this was last year's. It's a little sweater and on a hanger, and it's just lovely. So this year's, Denise, yours is in the mail tomorrow, so you'll be fine. But there's been some years when he'd have some help. And one of those years, he was working on his master's paper. And so the dogs made the uh, made the ornaments out of milk bones. And so those turned out really fun. And it's funny because most of the family members who have all of these have said that this was the first ornament that the mice would get to when the ornaments were stored in the attic. So this is one of the very few originals left. So, but he does beautiful work, and every year the family always looks forward to getting these ornaments. So,
Well,
so
and one of my favorites was a couple years ago. It was the light bulb
yes, yeah.
that was, and again, they just, it just as woodworking stuff alone. I mean, it's all fabulous. So, and so how do you pick the choices for the rotation? Is it just by every 10 years or something, or how did you choose that?
Well, that kind of falls under your question about what kind of themes that I have,
Okay.
because under the Christmas trees, I have four kinds of themes. One is fancy ornaments, glass and gold and silver, and just really pretty, more elegant type decorations. Um, there's the favorites, and those include ornaments that came from our very first tree. So those are 43 years old, and things that we've just accumulated through the years. Um, this year's tree is a Hallmark tree, and then Tim's ornaments make another tree. So there's four of them, and I just keep rotating through the four. So that keeps it interesting. It's not the same thing every year. Uh, a lot of times, what I'll do if there's enough ornaments is that some years I put out some and then hold back others and put them out another time. So those are
Hmm.
the trees that I have.
Well, because I know for years and years and years, my mother would buy us each a Hallmark ornament, and that's the ones I got out for Henrik to look through, and it was just really fun to watch which ones he picked as opposed to which ones I thought were important. Because we had one that from Hallmark that had a train that when you plugged it in, it drove through the globe, and that was a lot of fun. And he picked that one, and there was just others, and then I started. I don't know how long ago that was, but Hallmark came out with a football Hall of Fame, the Legends series, and so I started to buy Eric those, and then when we ran out of Hallmark stores near us, Kathleen dutifully went and got our ornaments for us. And this year, my son was an adult and went and actually got his own ornament. But he has every one of them, thanks to Kathleen helping keep that tradition. So, in fact, when Henrik was looking through my ornaments, he says to his dad, "Daddy, she doesn't have any football players." I was like, "No, I don't. They're all at your dad's house." But so Hallmark has been important because my mom helped, help make that, and then Kathleen helped me continue that tradition. And again, you get their Hallmark book, and then you start looking through it and making your selections, and because you do have a variety, and you don't put up the same static tree every year.
Going along with the ideas of the themes. Oh, and just to go back to the Hallmark book, yeah, I wait. I have it on my calendar. I think it's April 15th or something that becomes available, and I'm the first one at the door at the Hallmark shop to get my calendar. But I do have some other things that go along with the idea of the themes, and those are mostly the things that have been either gifted to me or we've just collected through the years. Just wanted to share a couple of those with you real quick. One of them's the elves, and I know we want to talk about those, but then there's snowmen, and Tim made me hand-carved snowman, and he's a little treasure. So I have the snowmen up on the mantle, and then, and I don't know where those started, but the other thing that I collect are Santas, and this one is my favorite. He's pretty much the original. He's the source of my Santa collections, because my mom had him when I was little and growing up, and I believe he was made by someone in her family, but I don't know the exact person or how old he is. But
Mhm.
considering my age and that she had him before I was born, he could be getting on close to like almost 100 years old. Now, his suit is another story. Of course, everything has a story. Um, he was wearing the original outfit, and one of the dogs decided they wanted to play with him and destroyed the suit. So the
Oh,
the suit is an upgrade, but the doll, fortunately, the dog stopped before he got to the doll, and but he's my treasure. He comes out every year, and he's one of those good memories that takes you back to your childhood, and so I like having him around. And then I've collected other Santas. Like I say, some are gifts, some are handmade,
hmm,
some are
hmm.
carved, um, and those kind of go around the house. So
Well, because I remember when we would go to Grandma Stewart's house and put up her tree, and she had that green antique ornament that I was just every year. Oh, I would feel how heavy it was, and then after she had died and she moved, and I had just offhandedly asked you, did you ever know what happened to that thing? And then a few months later, you found it and gave it to me. And I told Eric, I said, I own only three things that if anything happens to me, and one of them is that ornament. That too is a very positive memory for me. That and my mom's volcano ashes and the Raggedy Ann and Andy you gave me. So, but yeah, I really like that when something from the past is a good memory maker. Hmm. So, well, and I didn't like to have like the same trail all the time. And when we had our house in Michigan, one year I had angels and bells, and I had a cat. And one day the cat got up in the tree, and he would stick his paw out, and he was jingling the bells, and I'm like, get out of that tree. But David let me do that. And then one year, Eric and I made our own ornaments and stuff. So I like the idea of the tree and making them different. So I really appreciate the fact that you work that all in so that you have it different, but that there are themes because that's important. I know to you. So, hmm. Anything else you want to share about that before we move on to the elves?
No, that was pretty much it. See, everything's pretty much broken down into the snowmen, the Santas, the elves, and the tree. Once I get those things up, there are other things that I'll put up and around just to kind of add, linens like hand towels and that kind of stuff, coffee cups. Those are fun because one thing too about when you have people come over, they use those things, and that makes it interesting. So,
Well, and I guess that also is the point that, other than the kids coming over on Christmas Eve morning, I don't have a lot of company here, and not that I'm Scrooge or anything, but so there's not a lot of motivation. I know that the year before, well, David died in February, and that December, my sister had invited us to her house, and my sister turned that house into just an unbelievable thing for David to see. And, she had a 10-foot Christmas tree with it all decorated and lights and all the impractical and practical things around. And he said, next year we're going to decorate for Christmas. And Diane and I just looked at each other like, okay, but she really, she like you enjoys having people coming over and seeing the the craftiness of how special you make these things. So I've always appreciated that because you do, now that you're back in Fort Wayne, you do have family come over and share those things with you, which is a really good thing.
it is. That was the
Hmm.
motivation for moving back here. So, yeah, I'm going to pull it all out.
Well,
So,
and again, because you're not employed, not that you're bored, but you have time to really add the finishing
yes,
touches as you would
yes.
as you would want, so you're not hurried around and feeling rushed and you don't feel the pressure. It's an enjoyable thing.
Yeah. And you got to enjoy it. So,
Well, and again, when I put up the two trees and then the lights blinked out, and I haven't had these trees for very long, I thought about getting mad, and I said, don't bother. And I just unplugged them, and the tree stands as is unlit. But I'll do better for next year. I'll buy me some real lights and hang them on myself. So now let's move on to the elves. So what got you interested in the elves, and how many do you have?
okay. Well, it started in Frankenmuth in Bronner's. And here is one of them. Um, the manufacturer is called Zims, Zims Elves themselves. And this little guy I bought three the first time I started into this. And this was one of the first ones. And he's just fun. He's all wrapped up in the light string of lights, and he's got this wonderful smile on his face. Um, they're basically about 10 to 12 inches tall. Um, I have 9 of these elves now, and I blame Hallmark for the whole thing because I did just fine with the first 3. Okay, so there's this little guy, and Hallmark names them all, but I don't worry about the names. Um, but then what happened is 3 years later, Hallmark came up with this little group of elves. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get him oriented here. They're called tree trimmer elves. And what happened was that the first year that they made the elves, the tree trimmer elves, this guy is testing light bulbs. So I now have a pair. I have a large elf with draped in lights, Christmas lights, and I have a small elf who's testing light bulbs. So it's perfect. And that's what got me started on this. That after, I have the larger elves, and now all of a sudden I've got Hallmark feeding me a new elf every year. And I have to make sure that I have a mate for him. And let's see here. I've got 9 of the large elves, and they all have at least one of the small elves. But I actually have 11 of the small elves, and one of them I cannot find a large one for. So I keep hunting every year because they keep coming out with new things. And so I find them on the internet and I keep looking. So this one that's missing is a nutcracker elf. And I've got to, someday I will find the large elf with a nutcracker. Um, but that's the fun thing, that's one of the reasons I get that catalog every year, is to find out what addition do I have to my elves. And I've got them in the living room. Um, they the different things that they do. I've got one with candy canes, the lights, bells, tree ornaments, presents, snowflakes, stringing popcorn and cranberries. The one for this year is a tree top, that putting tree toppers on. And then I have a cookie baker, and he's off in the kitchen with his little elf and other Hallmark uh, cookie cutter ornaments and stuff. So there's all kinds of neat themes or pieces that you can find that go with the themes. And Tim gets a big kick out of me having the large and the small elf, and then other things to support it. He was very kind one year, and the candy cane elf, he made me a little ladder so I could hang little tiny candy canes on it so it looks like they're drying, and it's perfect. So I
See,
have an
but that,
accomplice.
yeah, but that's fun. But see, part of the thing with you, this is one of our differences, is that you enjoy the hunt for that stuff. I just want to buy it and be done. You like the looking and the exploring and the comparing and and that really helps set that aside for you, that you get to do those things, and that Tim is such a that he enjoys that as much as you do. I'm sure he sees the joy that that brings, and so to help it along, he'll do the things like make the ladder. And you two are a real good pair together with that.
Yeah, he made a little table so the baker elf could be standing on top of the table and get to a plate of cookies and that kind of thing. The sizing, the spacing just wasn't right. And so I need a table. And so he made me one. So he's been wonderful, very supportive of this.
Well, and it's got to be fun because I know that when I would go to my sister's house, because my sister's got a real good eye for decorating, also. And you could literally walk around her house for 2 hours and just look at all the fun stuff she's put out. And I'm sure that's what people do when they come to your house, because the tree's not the same old tree they see every year, and all the new additions you have. That is just fun, because I know David's ex-wife had, I don't know, the Christmas village or something, and she was always adding to that. And so you would just walk around her den and the family room, and just all the ways she put it out there, and just expressed herself through the Christmas village. And then it was really a lot of fun to just watch and see all the additions that she had found along her travels too. Anyway, is there anything else that we were going to talk about? No, we were going to talk about Tim's tree and the elves and your themes. Is there anything I'm missing? I think we captured it.
I think we pretty much got it all. The only thing I would like to say is that these decorations they make you feel good. They make people happy. But they are not Christmas. And where the true joy comes from is in remembering that this is when Jesus was born. That even if
Mhm.
all the decorations went away, that the essence of Christmas is still there. Um, I do the decorating because it makes me happy, it makes Tim happy, and it makes other people enjoy them and the decorations, and that's good. But they are not the heart of Christmas. They're just the icing on the cake.
Yep, and I agree with that. My neighbor Phil, he was Santa for hire, and we talked it through that exact theme, that it wasn't the Santa. Santa was fine, but he was just he wasn't an integral part of it, because Christ was the reason for it. And so again, the decorating and the having people coming over and a lot of people would be overwhelmed with that. But you've taken it as just an expression of the people you care about and having them enjoy their time. But you also make good reference to the fact that this is just something to do, but it's not where the baby in the manger is where it all starts from, really.
Yes.
Hmm. So I appreciate that because that's true. That I know that when Eric was real little, his grandparents were really big into the Santa thing, and we had many, many discussions about that. That like you said, we can decorate all we want, but that's really not where the main gist of this whole thing is going to come from. So anyway, is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this up? Because this has been super fabulous for me. And because again, I love your creativity. I like the fact that you do have a purpose and a plan and a theme, and that you do find some really fun things and it's all so that you can welcome the people into your home, that they'll feel as comfortable and confident that they were welcomed.
Well, thank you for asking me to talk about this stuff. It is fun. I really enjoy it. And I would love to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you. And so that's it for the spark of creativity from my favorite person, Kathleen. And that's it for now. And like she said, Merry Christmas. And we'll see you next week on the Blind Zone.